The silent arrival. The night was alive with music, glitter, and laughter. People moved through the ballroom with sparkling glasses in their hands, dressed in gowns and suits that shimmered under golden lights. It was one of those rare Hollywood nights where actors, producers, and dreamers gathered together not only to celebrate, but also to remind the world of who still mattered in the industry. Yet, as full as the room was, something unexpected was about to cut through the noise. It started with a whisper near the entrance. The doorman, usually calm and professional, straightened his jacket and froze for a second. A few people turned their heads, sensing something unusual. Then, the doors slowly opened wider, and in that moment, the atmosphere of the party shifted like the sudden hush before a storm. Keanu Reeves walked in, calm and steady, his dark suit simple yet sharp. But it wasn't just him that made the crowd. "Stop!" His hand was gently holding the hand of Sandra Bullock. She walked beside him, her soft smile glowing as if she had been waiting for this night her whole life. Their fingers were linked, and though neither of them spoke, the connection between them spoke louder than any music in the room. The party froze. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Champagne glasses were paused in mid-air. Even the band seemed to falter for a beat, as though the instruments themselves were caught in the moment. Two of Hollywood's most beloved stars, long rumored but never confirmed, had just walked in, hand in hand. Sandra glanced at Keanu and whispered something only he could hear. He nodded slightly, his lips curving into the quietest smile, the kind that carried both kindness and mystery. Those who stood nearest could feel the energy, a mix of respect, surprise, and even jealousy. Because in that one simple gesture, holding hands, they showed a bond deeper than rumors, stronger than years, and more powerful than the industry's noise. As they moved deeper into the hall, whispers spread like wildfire. "Are they together?" Someone gasped. "After all these years?" Another voice cracked with excitement. And yet, not everyone smiled. Some eyes narrowed, some hearts tightened. Because in a place where image was everything, true connection often became a threat. At one corner, an actress whispered to her friend, "She stole the spotlight." Another quietly muttered, "He deserves better." But not all whispers carried bitterness. Some carried admiration. "Look how humble they are," one young actor said softly, watching the way Keanu nodded respectfully to the staff, or how Sandra smiled warmly at strangers, as if they had been her friends for years. The night's tension grew heavier. But in that silence, something more important was revealed. Keanu and Sandra weren't here to show power or glamour. They were here to show presence. And that presence carried humility. Yet behind the admiration, there was also conflict waiting to rise. An old rival of Sandra's was in the room. Someone who had always compared her success against her own. And Keanu had an unfinished history with one of the producers attending, a history filled with both kindness and misunderstanding. The night had only just begun, and already sparks of tension and emotion filled the air. But for now, all that mattered was this. When Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock walked into the party hand in hand, the world stopped to listen. The whispers. Beneath the lights, the ballroom tried to return to its rhythm, but nothing felt the same after Keanu and Sandra's arrival. The music picked up again, the band playing louder as though trying to drown the whispers, yet the air carried an invisible weight. Everyone's eyes followed them, even if they pretended not to. It was as if every soul in the room wanted to capture this moment, to hold it like a secret photograph in their memory. Keanu's steps were steady, his hand never leaving Sandra's. He didn't squeeze too tight. He didn't lead her forward with force. Instead, he moved with a kind of quiet respect, allowing her presence to shine beside his. Sandra, in return, walked with her head held high, her smile soft but unshaken. Together, they were not loud, not dramatic, yet they became the center, of the night's story without speaking a word. The hook of the night was not their fame, but their humility. Keanu paused by the waiters serving champagne, thanking one with a gentle nod as if that small kindness mattered more than the flashing cameras. Sandra stopped to greet an elderly makeup artist who once worked with her in her early days, hugging her with genuine warmth while others simply passed by. These were not gestures for the spotlight. These were habits of hearts that remembered where they came from. Yet admiration was not the only emotion stirring. From the far side of the hall, a rival actress named Claire stood stiffly with her drink untouched. Years ago, she had competed with Sandra for a role that changed Sandra's career forever. Claire never forgot the sting of rejection, and tonight, watching Sandra walk in hand with Keanu, she felt the old wound tear open again. Bitterness clouded her eyes as she whispered to her companion, "Some people always know how to steal the light." In another corner, a powerful producer named Victor narrowed his gaze at Keanu. Victor once offered him a film that could have made millions, but Keanu turned it down because he felt the script lacked respect for human values. Victor never forgave him for that. Seeing Keanu celebrated tonight made him grind his teeth in. Silence. His pride stung deeper than anyone could see. But the audience watching this unfold didn't know these hidden stories. What they saw was a man and a woman moving gracefully through a crowd of envy and admiration, their silence louder than any speech. Every whisper only made their bond seem stronger. Every jealous glance only revealed the insecurity of others. As the night went on, the host of the event, a respected director, raised his glass and asked for silence. "Tonight," he announced, "we celebrate not just the industry, but the spirit of resilience, the courage to remain kind in a world that often forgets kindness." His words hung in the air like a challenge, and without meaning to, his eyes landed on Keanu and Sandra. The crowd clapped, but beneath the applause was tension. For some, it was admiration. For others, it was envy. Sandra leaned closer to Keanu, her voice calm, almost like a whisper carried by the air. "They're watching everything." Keanu replied softly, "Let them. We didn't come here to hide." Their words carried no drama, yet they struck deeply. In a place where image meant survival, their strength came not from image, but from authenticity, and that authenticity would soon face its first test. Claire, burning with jealousy, began weaving her way through the crowd toward them. Victor, filled with pride, tightened his grip on his glass, his mind already plotting how to bring discomfort into Keanu's calm world. And somewhere among the crowd, a young actor, inspired by their presence, made a silent promise to himself to follow kindness over ambition, no matter the cost. The night's story was just beginning to unfold, and everyone in that hall knew. This was no ordinary evening. It was a night where humility would clash with pride, kindness would face jealousy, and the simplest gestures could become the strongest weapons. Shadows of envy and sparks of kindness. The ballroom glowed brighter as the evening stretched on, but beneath the chandeliers, shadows of envy began to stretch longer too. People returned to their conversations, yet their words carried less laughter and more whispers. Every glance seemed to circle back toward Keanu and Sandra, as if the entire night had surrendered its story to them alone. Claire moved slowly through the crowd, her smile practiced, but her eyes sharp. Her dress shimmered with silver, yet her heart felt heavy with old resentment. Years ago, when Sandra landed the role that made her a household name, Claire had told herself that it was only luck. But luck didn't explain the warmth Sandra carried in every room or the way Keanu's presence tonight amplified it. To Claire, this night was not just another party, it was another reminder of what she had lost. She reached them finally, placing herself directly in their path. "Sandra," Claire said, her tone sweet enough to fool the strangers listening nearby. "You look radiant." It must be wonderful to shine again after so many quiet years." Her words dripped like honey, but the sting underneath was clear. Sandra, instead of recoiling, simply smiled. "Thank you, Claire. You look beautiful, too. It's been a long time." There was no trace of bitterness in her voice, only calm sincerity. The way she answered, without arrogance or defensiveness, caught Claire off guard. It was as though Sandra's humility dissolved the poison in her words. Keanu, standing slightly behind, observed quietly. He knew this wasn't just small talk, it was a test. His instinct told him to step in, to shield Sandra, but he understood her strength. Sometimes true respect meant letting someone fight their battles with grace rather than force. But Claire wasn't ready to retreat. "And Keanu," she continued, turning to him with an edge of false charm, "you must be proud to stand by her tonight. Though I wonder, how does it feel to finally be the one carrying the spotlight?" The crowd nearby leaned in slightly, hungry for conflict. The question was designed to wound, to suggest that Keanu's presence was only meant to lift Sandra, not equal her. For a moment, silence threatened to collapse the scene. Keanu didn't frown, didn't snap back. Instead, he gave a gentle nod. "I don't carry the spotlight," he said softly. "I just walk beside it." His answer stunned the listeners. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't sharp. It was humble, simple, and yet powerful. Claire blinked, her lips parting as if she wanted to respond, but had no words. The crowd's tension broke into admiration, a few quiet claps even rippling in the background. The hook wasn't Keanu's fame. The hook was his humility, the kind of humility that turned conflict into reflection. Across the room, Victor, the producer, had been watching closely. The moment stirred something unpleasant in him. He remembered the day Keanu turned down his script, choosing integrity over money. That rejection had humiliated him in front of investors, and though years had passed, he carried the scar like a silent grudge. Now, seeing Keanu admired for that very humility, Victor's pride burned hotter. He leaned toward a colleague and muttered, "He plays kind, but pride hides behind every smile. I'll prove it tonight." Meanwhile, far from the envy and plotting, another story was quietly unfolding. Near the back of the hall, a young actor named Liam stood frozen, his heart racing. Liam was nobody to this glamorous crowd. His suit was borrowed, his shoes slightly worn, but he had been invited by luck, an extra seat, a forgotten name on a guest list. And yet, watching Keanu bow respectfully to waiters, seeing Sandra embrace an old colleague with genuine love, Liam felt something shift inside him. He whispered to himself, "That's the kind of actor I want to be. Not the richest, not the loudest, but the one people remember for kindness." In that moment, Liam's dream took on a new shape. And though nobody knew his name tonight, their small acts of humility planted a seed in him that could one day grow into something the world might notice. The night swirled on. Music rose, glasses clinked, laughter returned in bursts. But underneath it all, currents of conflict and inspiration moved side by side. Sandra's rival stood bruised by grace. Victor plotted his strike. Liam found a new reason to fight for his dreams. And Keanu and Sandra, unaware of how many lives they were touching, remained steady, hand in hand, walking the fine line between admiration and envy. The party was not done with them yet. The true test was still waiting. The cracks beneath the golden light, the music rose again, a jazz tune spinning lightly through the chandeliers, but something in the air had changed. The golden light of the ballroom now felt sharp as though it revealed too much. Every smile hid a secret. Every laugh carried a shadow. Keanu and Sandra had made the crowd pause when they first walked in, but now the ripples of their presence were spreading faster, reaching every corner of the room. Victor, the powerful producer, finally made his move. He set his glass down on a marble table. his fingers tapping once, as if sealing a decision. Pride and resentment twisted together. In his chest. This wasn't just about Keanu rejecting his film years ago. It was about the humiliation he had carried ever since, a humiliation that tonight demanded to be avenged. He walked toward them slowly, each step measured, his smile thin and polished. The crowd noticed. Whispers rose again, softer than music but sharper than knives. People could sense it. The storm was about to break. Sandra leaned closer to Keanu, whispering under the music. "He's coming." Keanu's eyes, calm as still water, shifted slightly toward Victor. He didn't tense. He didn't prepare for a fight. Instead, he gave the smallest nod as though saying silently, "Let him come." Victor stopped just a step away from them. "Keanu Reeves," he said loudly enough for nearby ears to catch. "It's been a long time. I must say you look the same, though maybe too much the same. Some people grow with the years, others just hold on to old tricks." The words cut through the hall like glass. Laughter stuttered, conversations faltered. It wasn't only an insult, it was a challenge. Victor wanted blood, or at least pride, spilled in public. Keanu didn't flinch. Instead, he bowed his head slightly, his tone steady. "It's true," he said softly. "I haven't changed much. I still believe kindness is more important than tricks." The crowd's reaction was immediate. Gasps, murmurs, even a quiet clap from someone who couldn't hide their admiration. Victor's smile faltered, but his pride wouldn't allow defeat. "Kindness?" he sneered. "Tell me, does kindness pay bills? Does kindness win wars in this industry?" "No, Keanu. Kindness is a mask. One day, it slips." Before Keanu could reply, Sandra stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "Then maybe the world needs more masks like his." Her words carried both fire and grace, silencing the sneer on Victor's face. The hook of the night deepened. What began as whispers was now open conflict, fought not with fists but with words, humility clashing against pride. The audience leaned closer, unwilling to look away. But this wasn't the only story unfolding. Across the room, Claire, still bitter, found herself torn. She wanted to see Sandra fall, to watch her stumble, but what she had just witnessed left her shaken. She remembered her own beginnings when she too believed in kindness, before envy had hardened her heart. Watching Sandra defend Keanu with grace, Claire felt something she hadn't expected: doubt. And in the shadows near the exit, young Liam clenched his hands. His chest burned with inspiration. To him, this wasn't just Hollywood drama. It was proof that humility could face pride and not collapse. In his mind, he whispered, "If they can stand tall, so can I." The night was shaping his dreams more than any movie could. Victor wasn't finished. "You think you win with words," he said coldly. "But watch closely. One day this crowd will turn. Admiration fades. Humility is forgotten. And when it does, where will you stand then?" Keanu met his eyes, calm as a mountain. "If admiration fades, I'll still stand where I am, beside those who matter." The crowd erupted into quiet applause, soft but spreading like raindrops falling into a silent lake. Victor's pride shattered in that sound. His jaw tightened, but he forced a smile, turning away, pretending retreat was victory. But inside, the wound burned deeper than before. Yet what nobody noticed was that his retreat wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something darker. Victor wasn't the kind of man to lose gracefully. He was the kind of man who planned. As he walked away, Sandra looked at Keanu, her eyes searching. "This won't end tonight," she whispered. Keanu nodded, his face serene, but his grip on, her hand firm. "Then we'll face it tomorrow too." The golden lights glittered above, but beneath them, Cracks were forming. Admiration and envy now danced side by side, and everyone in that hall felt it. The story of this night wasn't close to finished. The storm within the celebration, the party glittered on the outside, but within the walls, it was no longer the same event. Laughter rang out, yet underneath it, unease whispered like a shadow. Some people danced, others posed for photos, but all of them carried the weight of what had just happened between Victor and Keanu. The applause for humility had been soft, but it had cut deeper than any grand speech. Victor sat at a corner table now, his face lit only by the faint glow of a glass he never lifted. His smile was frozen, but his mind was racing. Humiliation, for a man like him, was not just pain. It was fuel. Every cheer for Keanu was a wound, every glance of admiration toward Sandra a reminder that his power was slipping. He promised himself he would not leave the night without striking back. Across the hall, Keanu and Sandra walked among the guests with the same calm grace. They did not boast. They did not use the attention. Instead, they stopped to listen to the small voices. The crew members, the assistants, the forgotten faces in the glittering sea. A costume designer broke into tears when Sandra remembered her name from years ago. A waiter whispered thanks after Keanu helped him pick up a tray he had dropped. These simple acts, unnoticed by many, became the true heartbeats of the night, and yet for those watching closely, those acts became more dangerous than any insult. Claire, still shaken, stood by a balcony with her glass trembling. She wanted to hate Sandra, but her kindness was like a mirror, forcing Claire to face her own envy. "Why do they never stumble?" she whispered to herself, the words trembling. For the first time in years, she felt the burden of her jealousy more than the joy of her success. But not everyone was moved toward goodness. Victor whispered into the ear of a journalist nearby, feeding him sharp, twisting words. "Watch them carefully," Victor murmured. "Kindness hides cracks. Tonight you'll see them." The journalist, hungry for a story, nodded. In Hollywood, rumors spread faster than light, and Victor knew it. If he could not break Keanu with words directly, he would use whispers to poison the air. The unique hook of the night came when the music slowed, and the host announced a surprise, an unscheduled speech from guests who represented the spirit of resilience in Hollywood. Every eye turned again, and the host's smile grew wider. "Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, would you honor us?" Room erupted with applause, but it wasn't just celebration. It was pressure. Stepping into the light meant becoming a target. Keanu glanced at Sandra, and she gave the smallest nod. Together, they stepped forward. The hall fell silent. For a heartbeat, all that existed was their presence at the microphone. Keanu spoke first, his voice low but steady. "Thank you. I don't have many words for nights like this. I just know that kindness has carried me farther than ambition ever could. I hope we never forget the people behind the lights, the hands that sew, serve, build, and guide. They are the real stars." His words didn't soar like fireworks. They landed softly, but they landed deep. Sandra followed, her voice clear but warm. "We all live in a world that can change overnight. Fame, success, even beauty, they fade. But respect, humility, and love, those are the things we carry with us. I hope this night reminds us not of who shines brightest, but of who remembers to shine for others." The applause this time was louder, richer, filled with true emotion. Some people even stood, clapping until the walls echoed. For many in the room, it was no longer just a party, it was a moment of reflection. But for Victor, it was unbearable. The admiration, the rising respect, the way even old rivals softened, it all twisted his pride tighter. He leaned forward, whispering to his companion, "They think they've won, but I'll turn this crowd before the night is over." At the back of the hall, Liam, the young actor who had watched all night, felt tears in his eyes. Their words struck him like lightning. He whispered, "Someday I'll stand where they are, not because I want the fame, but because I want to carry the same truth." In that instant, his dream was no longer about survival. It was about meaning. The hook of suspense sharpened again when the journalist Victor had poisoned began typing furiously into his phone. A rumor was already being born, one that could twist their humility into scandal if left unchecked. Keanu and Sandra didn't know it yet, but the seeds of betrayal had already been planted in the very air of the ballroom. The party glittered still, but beneath the chandeliers the storm was now rising. Admiration and envy were on a collision course, and the next clash would not be fought with words alone. The night the truth stood taller, the ballroom shimmered as if nothing was wrong, but underneath the glow, tension was building like thunder, behind a calm sky. Victor's plan had already been set in motion. The journalist he whispered to slipped through the crowd, phone in hand, his eyes hungry for a scandal. The rumor Victor planted was simple but sharp, that Keanu and Sandra had only come hand in hand tonight to manipulate the public, that their kindness was nothing more than a performance to win back the spotlight. It spread quickly, carried from ear to ear, a poison masked as curiosity. "Did you hear?" someone muttered near the buffet. "They're just pretending." Another voice added, "It's a show, a publicity stunt." The whispers grew, circling back like smoke toward the very people it targeted. Sandra noticed first. She caught fragments of sentences, half-words that stung, glances that no longer held admiration but suspicion. Her smile faltered for the briefest second. Keanu saw it, and he knew. He leaned closer, his voice calm. "They're twisting it." She nodded, her eyes steady. "Then we stand taller." And so they did. Instead of shrinking back, instead of retreating into the crowd, Keanu and Sandra moved forward, their steps measured but unshaken. The host noticed the growing unrest and, sensing the need for balance, offered them the microphone once again. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "our guests would like to share one last thought before the night closes." The hall hushed. The air was heavy, every eye waiting not just for words but for proof. Would the rumors be true? Would their humility crack under pressure? Keanu took the microphone first. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "I've heard whispers tonight, whispers that kindness is a mask, that respect is an act. Maybe that's easier to believe in a world where so much is staged. But let me tell you this, if kindness is a mask, I'd rather wear it every day of my life than walk proudly without it." The words landed heavy. There was no anger, no defense, just truth. Sandra stepped forward, her eyes sweeping the crowd. "We didn't come here to be the loudest. We didn't come here to prove we belong. We came here because we believe that respect is stronger than envy, that humility is stronger than pride. You can call it a show if you want, but if a show of kindness inspires even one person in this room to be better tomorrow, then I am proud to play that role." For a moment, silence wrapped the ballroom, and then, slowly, a sound rose. Not a whisper, not a mutter, but applause. Soft at first, then louder, swelling until it filled every corner of the hall. People stood, hands clapped, eyes teared. Even those who had doubted seconds ago felt the weight of sincerity that no rumor could erase. Claire, the rival who had carried bitterness for years, stood frozen, her glass trembling. Her envy cracked like fragile glass. Tears welled in her eyes, uninvited. She whispered to herself, "I was wrong." And in that moment, her heart softened. At the back of the room, Liam, the young actor who had watched all night, felt his chest burn with inspiration so deep he would never forget it. He whispered, "This is what greatness means." The seed that had been planted now grew into a vow, one that would shape his entire journey. Victor, meanwhile, stood stiff, his plan undone, before his eyes. The rumor he crafted had failed against something stronger than any story: truth. He clenched his fists, pride shattering inside him, and for the first time, he realized that no amount of power could defeat a heart that chose humility. Keanu and Sandra stepped back from the microphone, their hands still linked. They did not bask in the applause. They did not claim victory. They simply bowed their heads slightly, acknowledging the moment, and returned to the crowd as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But everyone knew it had. The party slowly returned. To life, music flowing again, lights glowing softer now, as though the ballroom itself had changed. Conversations carried a new tone, not of gossip, but of reflection. Respect lingered in the air like perfume, impossible to ignore. And so the night ended not with scandal, not with pride, but with a quiet triumph. Two people had walked into a room hand in hand, and by the end, they had reminded everyone of something the world too often forgets: that humility is not weakness, that kindness is not a mask, and that true respect leaves a mark no rumor can erase. The party froze when Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock showed up hand in hand, but it lived again because of the truth they carried with them.